All right, I'm going to keep this brief. I've been fighting with DaVinci for like a couple hours now, and I want to make a video and I want to get it out, and I'm really, it's going to happen. So, um, the the thing that I've been trying to get out is that I've done a lot of changing in my lifetime. I have done a lot from where I was to where I am, and um, and that's just me. Like, I've tried to accomplish a lot in my lifetime, and I'm nowhere near where I would like to be, but I've done very well for where I am. And um, I used to be a lot of things. I used to be Christian. I used to be conservative, and I am the opposite of those things now. And if I were to look at myself and tell myself where I was way back then, I would say, um, you know, it'll get better. Trust me. I used to. But if I were to tell myself another little secret, I would say, do yourself a favor and get therapy, because a lot of charlatans will say, hey, man, all you got to do is do this or that. And they do so in a way that's like you got to basically be a toxic male or whatever it is. And I would just straight up be like, no, you need therapy. Honestly, 100%. Like, I had a lot of issues growing up where I came from, and what I had to deal with: toxic family members, toxic friends, and there was a lot of things that I needed to better myself, and I realized that I got rid of a lot of friends, a lot of family. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of family I don't talk to anymore, but there's a good portion of them that I don't really know if I'd have anything in common with them. So there's that, and I don't know if they'd actually talk to me. But there are some family members that I don't want to talk to anymore because they're straight up, they're kind of toxic, and that was the thing. It's like, maybe to them, I think maybe I just needed, it's like if you were amongst Christians and you were talking about whatever it is you talk about, that's not necessarily going to be bad for you. But to me, that would be incredibly toxic. Like, I know what I want, and I know where I am, and I know who I am, and I don't want to be that. So there's that. With that being said, I've made mistakes in my past. I've got myself into situations that I wish I didn't, and I've made the best for the situations that I have right now. And honestly, I've learned a lot. I had to straighten out the gears in my head, and I wish I'd known a lot of things now or then that I do now. And regrets are made, and I definitely have my share. But over the long haul of it, I think we have to come to a point where if there's something that we don't feel is right about ourselves, about our environment, about certain aspects, we work towards changing those attributes. It's like if we feel exhausted after having friendship or having a friend over or something. You gotta let it go. Like, at some point, they're not going to help you, right? And there's, and that's the thing. It's like, there's some people that I met that, I've haven't seen in a long time, and I'm very grateful that they came back. So there's that. And sometimes people change, and you change, and it's like meeting a whole new person all over again. It's like, you definitely take a different perspective, and things change. And I want to be different now than I was 7 years ago, and I want to be a different person than I am currently in 7 years. And I think I want to change. I want to better myself. I want to better my environment. I want to do all these things because, like, way back then, a lot of things happened, and a lot of experiences are different than they were. And it's like, I think I'm, especially when I changed politically, I changed not really the core values of who I was. I still, like, I want people to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I don't really care what gender, race, sex you are. I want everybody, like, I talk to people as if they're people, not necessarily an identifier. And it's like, okay, so, but I do understand that is not necessarily that there's a lot more nuance to the whole subject. I'm not going to cover it specifically, but that is the ideal world that I want. And my ideas have changed. Well, my core has stayed the same, but how I want to arrive at that conclusion is different now, because I try to, I argue with people on the internet a lot, but I do so in the means of trying to change people's minds, and that doesn't work a lot, because, and that was the thing, it's like, when I was young, I believed a lot of things that I would not stand by right now, and I believe a lot differently than I did way back then. So I think there comes a point where you have to try to better yourself, and you have to see, because I remember one time I was working at Walmart at the time, and this guy, I was having problems with the buffer, right? This was overnight maintenance, so I was doing the buffer work, and this was back before when we had buffers. And I remember I was having such a horrible time that day, and I was like, man, I'm just like, this person's doing this to me, and blah, 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 blah. The guy and a different guy that I don't really talk to or interacted with, he was like, man, is it always somebody else's fault that, like, is it always everybody else doing bad things to you? Is that why you're where you're at? Is that why you're failing? And I'm like, it just broke my brain. I was like, God damn. Like, I guess that's a bad excuse. And then I worked towards etching out parts that were not working for me, and I started standing up for myself, because the guy was kind of a bull, or the person who was over me at the time was kind of a bully. And, I reinforced myself. I said, okay, well, I'm going to make proof of this so that I can tell a manager, and blah, 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 blah. The overarching concept that I'm trying to convey is that I stopped saying, everything is happening to me, and I know this doesn't work for everybody. Before you comment, I'm just saying that this worked for me. I know there are systematic problems in America, and around the world, and I understand that this is a one size fits all philosophy. What I'm saying is that this worked for me, and that was the thing. It was like I realized that I had to not. I had to stop feeling sorry for myself and actually do something with what I've been given. And I worked my butt off trying to get a little bit farther and farther. I worked hard to get all of my stuff that I had the hardest time getting a hold of, as far as like ID and whatnot. And eventually now I have an apartment, I have a job, I have a car, I have a girlfriend, I have cats, which I really wanted, and I managed to find an apartment that allowed cats. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take that right now. So and I worked really hard to push for the things I wanted, as far as that was concerned. I remember, and there was just a lot of things that I learned with exes about how to not take, if things go bad, you get out. You don't try to amend. As far as that was the one relationship I'm thinking of in particular, like I needed to get out. Like there was no salvaging that. And sometimes you're going to run into situations where you can't salvage things, and you need to learn to just get out. And sometimes the thing is if you remove yourself from a situation, a lot of times you can be an enabler of especially of narcissistic people. Like you can be an enabler of their narcissism, and then they can just kind of target you for every wrongdoing that ever happened to them in their lifetime. So there's that. And it's something to watch out for. And the thing is if I didn't have those relationships, even the crappy ones, I wouldn't have known what to say. Hey, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. This, I don't want to feel like this, so I'm not going to be around people who make me feel this way. And, honeymoon period only lasts so long, and then you have to, you have to put up your boundaries, say this is what I don't like, this is what I like. You stand by those. For God's sake, stand by those, because if you don't, they won't. And that's the thing. It's like I learned a lot, and when people ask me, they're like, hey, what have you done in 7 years? This is the stuff I think of. I think of, there was a lot of things that I had to put up with, a lot of infuriating events in my lifetime that I had to overcome, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be the person I am. But man, I really wish I didn't have to go through those. It's like, well, they made you stronger. Well, no, it didn't need to have happened. I could have read about this. I could have understood this from something else. But regardless, it still happened. And I think I'm better than I was. And I've had to go to therapy. I've had to go through just a lot of things in order to make myself a better person. And I think I've done well. I'm not a billionaire, and I'd be surprised if I ever got that far. But the most important takeaway that I want to stress is that even though, let's say in 7 years, I could look back at this video and be like, oh, well, man, there was a lot of things that I hadn't learned yet. But 7 years ago, I would have been incredibly dismayed. I would have. There was a lot of things I had to learn and a lot of experiences I had to go through to be a different person. And I wish I could have avoided some of them. But I learned that there was just a lot of things that I had to learn. And that being said, yeah, I strongly encourage anything that, if there's any way in which you can change your environment, I would do it. Like, if there's something that doesn't mingle well with you and it is grinding your gears, I would do, like, work steps towards changing that attribute. Like, hey, I don't have a car. Yeah, that wasn't an easy process. I'll be honest with you. I really wish public transportation was the thing, but that's neither here nor there. But, okay, I need to move out, which can be something that a lot of people can understand. Because if you're somebody who just wants to get their own place and not be around their parents because, you want your privacy and whatnot, that's understandable. If you're somebody who really needs to leave because of, major reasons, I understand, and I don't know. I wish there was more I could do about that, to be honest, because a lot of people are suffering about, like people who, like gay or trans or something like that. I wish there was more I could do on that front, but regardless, I just encourage people to try to, make their situation different and get therapy. Honestly, always get therapy. It really changed my brain in ways I didn't imagine it would. And I'm very grateful to my friend that encouraged me to go to therapy. With that being said, have a good day. Hopefully I'll see you next month, and hopefully DaVinci will work next time so I can make a actual good video and not have it and be able to edit it correctly. So, yeah.